What's up, and welcome back to Modern Dynasty. It's Ray coming to you live with Marty, the fantasy footboy. We're here to talk about some Superflex Dynasty wide receiver tiers. Let's talk about it.
Yep, let's talk about it. All right, buddy. You want to get into it with the first guy?
The first guy, it's pretty obvious at this point. It's the guy out of Ohio State, the guy that put up the explosive three cone drill and broad jump. Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, no. I think JSN is a great looking prospect. We're looking at 6'1", 190, 196. He did run 89% slot snaps out of Ohio State. So I think that does put him kind of more into that realistic possible Juju Smith-Schuster comp, maybe a Chris Godwin. I know a lot of people like the Amon Ra with upside and name cachet and maybe the extra draft capital. But either way, I do think that JSN lands in that elite tier, even with the concerns of the injury from last year, just not being on the field very much. I think he's still very safe in that elite tier prospects.
Yeah, I think he's somebody that he might not have a special ability going down the field, speed wise, but around the ball, he's just going to come down with it the
Yeah,
majority of
yeah.
the time.
Yeah, athleticism wins a lot of the times, and you can be short, intermediate athleticism, or it could be that long field athleticism. It doesn't evidently have to be both, and the both is what gets you into that Jamar Chase level prospect. And I don't think he's going to be immediately in that top two guys, but I could easily see him being receiver 5, receiver 6 in Dynasty by the end of the year.
All right. Okay, so after this, we have a tier break. And so we're going to go with the big guy, the fast guy, Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, no, Quentin Johnson, 6'2", 208. We talked about him during our rookie mock draft video that we did earlier this week. And that, he's just honestly a better prospect being 6'2" than he was when he was kind of coming in and possibly being listed at 6'4". Just a lot better bucket. I mean, he did put up the best yards after catch in the class per PFF. He's also 11th in college football amongst all qualifying receivers in that skill set. I think you're locking him in the first round pick. I think you do have some of the Kelvin Benjamin concerns when you look at a player like that, but I think you're also looking at upside of like a T Higgins type player as well. Yeah, I think that's really exciting with his slightly lower body type, thicker player, great yards after the catch. He's a guy I think's pretty locked into that first round.
Awesome. Yeah, and hopefully the third time's the charm on these TCU wide receivers.
I know, and that's a kind of could be a good thing. There are going to be players in your league that are maybe scared off from getting bit in the past with those from players from TCU, but I still think he's worth taking the risk on. Upside's
Yeah,
there.
definitely. Yeah. So after this, we see another tier break, and the next guy up is somebody who's fallen a little bit from the combine process. He had his best year last year with Kenny Pickett, and then he went to arguably a better quarterback, and didn't see as much production in the new system.
Yeah, for sure. We had him in A tier, right?
Um,
Or was this
B.
or
Yeah, we're into B now.
okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I knew that he was a guy that, honestly, he could easily move up into that A tier as far as the way that he moves on the field. I think elite route runner. You know, definitely we saw him, in the Blendikoff there in 2021 with Kenny Pickett. I know that could be an exciting possible pair up relationship again there in Pittsburgh in that offense. Um, I do think that maybe some of his value drop last year might have been from the fact that he was playing with an elite quarterback and Caleb Williams. Those kind of quarterbacks are going to get through their reads faster. They're going to find more open guys in the field. So where Kenny Pickett was more of a single read guy, Pittsburgh not a lot of other weapons. He's going to really utilize and lean on a player like Jordan Addison, where in USC they don't really evidently need to lean on a player like that because they have other players surrounding him with an elite quarterback that can also move on the ground as well. So, but they did show me that Addison can perform in both situations. Not only can he be the alpha in an offense, but he can also be an elite PPR machine as well. I do think that kind of the last year's Jahan Dotson, maybe some Calvin Ridley comps. But I think he's going to be a first round pick. It might be the end of the first round, but I still think he's a guy that gets that draft capital that we're looking for.
Definitely. All right, and up next we've got another guy in the same tier. It's a guy with some better speed, not quite as elite as we had hoped for, but he seems to be also very good at catching with his hands and not needing to catch with his body.
Yeah, for sure. Jalen Hyatt. He is 6 foot, 176. So a slightly slimmer build. He is an early declare. He did have a great season last year on paper. But there are some concerns. He didn't break out until the age of 21. But the NFL did take a risk on JMO last year. I think Hyatt looks a lot like JMO without the injury. So I think that there's a good chance we're going to see Jalen Hyatt's name called really early in the draft. It might shock a lot of people, and he's not evidently going to climb up your boards because he doesn't have that name cachet, and people are going to be a little turned off by his late production. But he's definitely a guy that you want to keep on your radar, and he's going to be solidified in your late first round of your rookie drafts.
Yeah, he's somebody where if I can't get out of a late first round pick, I'm pretty happy with taking him because I'm pretty sure his value is going to increase just on the type of guy that he is. How many games is it going to take of him catching like 2 touchdowns? Like if he gets, a 5 target, like 3 reception, 2 touchdown game, you know, he does that a couple times. His value's through the roof.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So this is where we have another tier break, and these guys kind of performed in college, but the main knock on them is they all seem to be, kind of small and like not ideal for the NFL. First up, we have Zay Flowers.
Yeah, Zay Flowers, he's a big riser through this whole process. He is 5'9", 182 pounds. Um, Zay is going to be 23 when the season starts, so he is not an early declare. But I think he is one of those high ceiling players with also a low floor. But I think the good thing is, he only ran 33% of his routes out of the slot. So that it does make him actually a very versatile player for a player that is in that 5'9", 182-pound range. I do love the comparisons to AJ Brown or Antonio Brown as a skill set. And I'd love to see him in that in a great offense that can utilize that type of player to his full potential.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we see like shades of Antonio Brown, but like not quite. I don't think we can give him the full ceiling that he had.
Yeah. You also had Ben Roethlisberger that was really slinging it at the time. To get into an offense that's going to throw the ball 40 to 50 times, as a blessing for any wide receiver, really.
Yeah. For All right, and up next in this tier, we got somebody who has kind of been all over the place. He used to be like a Debbie Darling, and then he kind of fell down in the process. Earlier in the year, we were seeing him go in third, fourth rounds, and now he's back up to where we can like look at him in the late first, early second range, like Marvin Mims out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think he's another player that similar to Zay Flowers, but honestly, you're getting him at a way better discount. It seems to be in a lot of these rookie drafts. He's very versatile for his size. 78% slot share last year, but only 30 and 35% the years prior. So that kind of shows me that they are they're they're able to use him in different aspects of the field. His big playability is definitely going to push him into that day two pick. I do see some kind of like KJ Hamler in his game, but there's also that Tyler Lockett type upside. Him and Tyler Lockett are almost identical from a size standpoint, and he was kind of used as the guy in the Oklahoma offense. So another guy that I'm excited about in the middle or end of your second rounds.
Yeah, definitely some upside there.
Hmm.
All right, and next up, we got a guy who out of North Carolina who he performed really well, was really explosive, but at the combine we didn't quite see him test as well as we had hoped.
Yeah. I know we were a little disappointed by some of his combine numbers, but this is a guy who was most productive out of the slot. He's a possible PPR machine. He's a very shifty guy. He knows how to get open. He should see production right away in the right offense. Another guy kind of looks like that Wandale Robinson type player that is just kind of an electric, finding space. I think a good mobile quarterback would be good for him. He knows how to find holes in those zones when the pocket breaks down. I'd like to see him with a kind of an offense like that once again utilizes that skill set.
Yeah. All right, and so that's the end of that tier for us. Now we break into the D tier. All right, we're going to start off the D tier with a definite faller, but I don't think you can let him really fall past this point. Is Keishawn Butte.
Yeah, another one. I think there's almost one player that we were hoping to be a tier above where they are currently in our rankings, and Booty is definitely one of them. He's a guy when he declared for the NFL draft, and even through the season, we were hoping to see him possibly as an A or B tier wide receiver. Goes out there, can hardly jump over a log, and it's not looking promising for this guy. Injuries slowed him down. He definitely had some, a few of the off the field issues as well. I don't really want to get into that too much, to be honest, but
No.
but I do think if Booty had just a better combine, we could easily see him moving up, but. Those athletic concerns on top of the character concerns, are you getting a George Pickens or are you getting a Brian Edwards? I think that's kind of what you're looking at with a Booty is does he just have that name that sticks around for a few years in the back of your minds, or is he actually going to take that next step, show the NFL that he can work hard and earn himself on a roster?
Yeah, the hope here is that the reason he performed the way he did is because there's some sort of lingering injury that prevented him, and that the upside of this pick is, he is a dedicated guy who works his way back from injury and takes it to like an NFL level and performs because he was on track to do that before. He can get
Yeah,
back on track.
yeah. I mean, he was looking like the next great LSU wide receiver.
Yeah. All right. So next up in this tier, we got Xavier Hutchinson. And this guy, he tested really well for size and speed.
Yeah, he was a finalist for the Blitnikoff. He did have like a low depth of target rate. It did show like a lot of like tunnel screens, schemed up first reads. He is going to be another guy who's almost 23 years old. But he did have a pretty decent breakout age and seems to like actually get better every year, which is I think that's something that NFL teams are going to look for. You know, 6'2", 203. He looks like an NFL wide receiver. I think uh, I got no problem. Looking at a guy who's probably looking mid third in your rookie drafts right now. These are some of the body types that you want to take a shot on.
Definitely. Yeah, coming up next, we've got a guy who was a faller as of last year. He was one of the top receivers that we were looking at in this draft, and he was the guy in Tennessee over Jalen Hyatt. But Cedric Tillman, yeah.
Yeah, 6'3", 213, almost another prototypical looking alpha wide receiver. He did have that injury-riddled senior year, like you mentioned. He's another guy. He's going to be 23 years old at the start of the season. But he did have solid junior year production. He was also production with Velus Jones, who was a third-round pick by the Bears, and Hyatt last year. So, I think he shows that he can perform at an NFL level.
Yeah.
So another guy that I think we can see maybe late day 2, early day 3 draft capital.
All right. Yeah, it's time for another tier break, and we're going to bring you our last 2 guys. The first of which is Charlie Jones. And this is a guy we kind of saw pop off at the Senior Bowl, and he's been climbing ever since.
Yeah. I mean, he should have been at the Super Senior Bowl. I mean, this dude started college in 2018. He's going to be 24 years old. But man, he had a solid year this year, 8.5 targets per game. I mean, he profiles like a really solid guy. 5'11", 175 pounds. This could be one of those sneaky Cooper Kupps of this year's draft, where he's just a guy who knows how to play football. And I think guys like that, the Hunter Renfrows, like another guy that kind of does that in college, where you're like, wow, this guy just kind of works hard and he's there. And I think Charlie Jones is another guy who he stayed 12 years in college here, so he obviously loves to play football. So I hope that he gets the opportunity with an NFL team. I think he's going to prove his worth through all the camps and OTAs. You'll see him really rising up rookie boards if you do your drafts later in the summer.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, and last up, we got a guy who's a little undersized, but also popped off at the Senior Bowl, Tank Dell.
Yep, the mini tank. He is definitely he's the lightest wide receiver in the class. 5'8", 165 pounds. But this is another one of those great hard-working kids. He worked his way through community college up to Houston. But this is a player who's going to be a true outlier if he does break out. Is he Hollywood Brown, Wan'Dale Robinson, or is he just another waiver fodder on your roster that's burning a hole there? So, I think he's not going to go as high in rookie drafts as we were originally expecting him to go. When we saw him really lighting it up at the Senior Bowl, we had cornerbacks literally scared to go up against him because they didn't want to look bad on tape.
Yeah.
So, somebody noticed that in the NFL, and I think we'll take a shot on him earlier than we would even expect.
Yeah, and I could see him kind of turning into a return specialist to secure a role on a team, and maybe having a lighter receiving role, being the wide receiver 4 on a team. So, definitely more of a deeper league flex play to fill in occasionally is what you're hoping for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. I think that about does it for the wide receiver tiers today. We've got some more videos coming up for you guys. We're going to be doing some trade videos and what else, Marty?
Yeah, we got some trade videos. We got some buy-sell videos coming up. I know we're both working on a couple wide receiver sleepers that we both are kind of a fan of, and a couple running back sleepers as well. So, stay tuned. Make sure to comment down below. Tell us who we missed, who you agree with, who you don't agree with. We'll definitely respond back and love to start a good conversation with you.
Awesome. Have a good day.
Yep. Peace.